ladies and gentlemen, Dameon Nelson coming to you here from the MaxSportsOnline.com studios with this Pro Wrestling Report wrap-up of TNA Impact on Spike TV. Yes, indeed, folks, the first TNA Impact wrap-up here from Max Sports Online. Let's get right to it, folks. TNA, of course, coming to you from the Impact Zone in Orlando, Florida. And LAX comes out in what looks to be a mix of D-Generation X and ECW in their entrance. A little bit of flavors from each. Maybe it's a preview of what we're going to see Tuesday night as DX accepts the challenge of Big Show on ECW. But anyways, they come out to the ring, and of course, Konnan speaks. Now, I know that's a shock to all of you watching at home, Konnan grabbing the mic and speaking. But Konnan goes off on a rant about the Lucha Libre stars of past and his Latin roots and Eddie Guerrero and blah, blah, blah. Remember, everybody, there's a hall pass on Eddie Guerrero's death. So if you actually respect his death, you will be like me and say things like this. If you don't, you will exploit his death for your own personal use. Insert Eddie Guerrero chants and all that other crap going on. But be that as it may, then we see AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels come out, still bandaged up backstage in the back on the video screen. They say that they want a match at No Surrender, and that match will be the first ever Ultimate X Tag Team matchup against LAX. That match coming again at the No Surrender pay-per-view on September 24th. Then from there, it is P.D. Williams teaming up with Senshi up against Chris Sabin and Jay Lethal. A tag team matchup that saw an end to the union, it seems, between Senshi and P.D. Williams. A little bit of confusion at the end of the match as Jay Lethal and Chris Sabin get the win over the team of Senshi and Williams. Great match, sort of short, but the real problem in the match was no sight of the greatest finishing move in the history of professional wrestling, the Canadian Destroyer, executed by P.D. Williams. That's a reason to tune in next week, folks, just to see that one move, to be honest with you. Be that as it may, that match again, Sabin and Lethal get the win. Then we move on to Bobby Roode, who says he's looking for what I could believe would be a manager, somebody who he's going to make a lot of money for. Very well done promo. Actually, when you talk about promos in the show, in the 1 hour time, they had several of them, and all very well put together and well produced. So it's a wonder that if what happens in the 1 hour span of a TNA episode, if WWE couldn't replicate that in their 2 hour period of time, the pacing and the excitement, or if ECW could even do it in their 1 hour period of time, we'd have a whole different wrestling scene right now. TNA doing a very good job filling their 1 hour of space each week on TNA. I'm sorry, on Spike TV. That matchup now, the matchup after that, actually, was Eric Young one-on-one against Shark Boy. Mike Tenay and Don West, an obvious post-produced commentary, say that but Eric Young has a lot on his mind. Jim Cornett has put a lot of pressure on him. Well, he lives up to expectations and actually defeats the cult favorite of TNA, as he's called, Shark Boy, in that matchup. Eric Young gets a win. Excuse me. In the end, we see Larry Zbyszko come out, followed by Earl Hebner, who has something he wants to tell the world. Maybe it's that he screwed Brett. I don't know. Maybe we can rehash that in TNA so we can talk about how we're not as good as WWE anymore. No, I don't think that, but when you do things like that, that's what it seems like is coming forward. Jeremy Borash talks to Christian Cage backstage. Christian Cage says what I believe is the truth. He is the biggest star in the company, and he is the meal ticket. And that everybody else needs to realize that. Well, Round the Truth Killing comes out to get more information about that particular claim and is challenged by Kristen by saying, I have already beat down rapping hip-hop posers like you. Round the Truth Killing says the difference is I'm the real deal. A little bit of a melee occurs backstage. Then the break apart and the match announced for next week. It will be Christian Cage one-on-one with Round the Truth Killings. Now keep in mind, Ron Killings is very short time left on his contract in TNA, and there are rumors rampant that he may be going back to World Wrestling Entertainment. And then the matchup that was hyped all night, it was Abyss going one-on-one with Brother Runt in a 10,000 thumbtacks match, a match where 10,000 thumbtacks were supposed to be involved. It actually, for a while there, looked like it was going to be a thumbtack on a pole match, as 2 bags of 5,000 thumbtacks were on poles on opposite side of the ring. Brother Runt grabs the thumbtacks, sets out half of them, and then is subsequently chokeslammed on those thumbtacks later on in the matchup. Not chokeslammed, but slammed on those thumbtacks later on in the matchup. Abyss gets the victory. Raven is watching from afar. Raven interferes to save Brother Runt from going through the other table of 10,000 thumbtacks that had been set up earlier in the match next to the ramp on the TNA Impact Zone. Raven makes a save. Raven throws Abyss down through the table. Raven carries out Brother Runt. Raven needs to get to a gym, folks. I'm sorry, Raven. I am a Raven mark. Was a Raven mark, but putting him out there with his Jeff Hardy-looking garb that he's wearing now and the gut that was sticking out about 4 feet, you know, folks, it's pretty sad to see Raven to what he's gotten to at this point now. I still say he can somewhat bring it in the ring, but not quite anymore. Planet Jarrett, folks. This is a very interesting dynamic. Now, keep in mind, TNA Impact is taped in Orlando, Florida, at Universal Studios. A lot of repeat fans come week in, week out, week in, week out. It's almost like the ECW situation of old when they were in the ECW arena. Same fans, week in and week out, with a couple of new here and there fans. Well, these fans, there's a difference between heel heat. Now, heel heat being the bad guy being hated by the fans, which is what you want, because the worst thing you could have is silent fans. The best thing you could have is fans either cheering or booing. But Jeff Jarrett seems to have not heel heat, but hate heat. And what I mean by that is these people actually hate him. Not in a wrestling mark kind of way, but they actually hate Jeff Jarrett. Hate him more when he has the championship belt on his shoulder. Now, they would not even let him speak. You can almost see a little bit of frustration coming out of Jeff Jarrett during that promo, in which he was clearly only going for TV. But the next step, fans, if you really want to show Jeff Jarrett that you don't like him and that you have hate heat against him as opposed to heel heat, turn around. Turn your backs. When he comes out, turn around and don't even pay him any attention and be silent. That is the true way to get at a wrestler if you don't want to show them, if you want to show them how much you truly hate them. Jim Cornett calls in at the end as Jeff Jarrett is coming out for the public execution of Sting. Pretty lame, if you ask me. Jim Cornett calls in and says that he will be subject to a polygraph test. It will be Jeff Jarrett next week on Impact. And that if he does not pass, he will be thrown to the fans. And which is worse? Not being able to, going up against Sting or going up against the fans. Very well done when it was all said and done by TNA. And I will give credit to Jeff Jarrett for continuing to be a professional and not knowing how he looks at it, but knowing that he still comes out and delivers an angle worth watching each and every week is respectable. That's your TNA Impact for this week. And I want to say in closing that the 1 hour of TNA action is probably the best solid wrestling hour on television today. Now, keep in mind, folks, this week was very evident that that was the case. What was missing from this week? There was no Team 3D. No Jesse James, no Kip James, and not any Sting in the arena. No Scott Steiner. All these people there, no Kevin Nash. All these people they're paying all this money to be the names of the company. You didn't see heavily involved, yet you did see a phenomenal episode of TNA Impact being delivered. Words to think about, folks. Well, for the Pro Wrestling Report, this is Dameon Nelson signing off from this TNA Impact Wrap Up. Our next Wrap Up scheduled is for Raw this upcoming Monday night, so be sure to tune in over here on MaxSportsOnline.com. Thanks for watching, folks. We'll talk to you again soon.